And of course, yours is a good area, and she's just talked about it a little bit because you are the program officer, condom programming at the Ministry of Health. But before we get into really, the use of condom and, especially amongst this age bracket of 14 to 30, tell us, you are in the ministry and you are in charge of, most of the initiatives in place and, to control the spread of HIV/AIDS. What initiatives have you put in place to ensure that this age bracket of 14 to 30 actually does not continue contracting HIV/AIDS?
Oh, thank you very much for that question. As a ministry, we have a specific strategy for HIV. We call it a National HIV Strategic Plan. And that plan outlines thematic areas for HIV prevention. And as part of our long-standing history, we've had the ABC strategy, which somewhat Martha alluded to. The ABC strategy basically looks at abstinence. And as a ministry, we are saying young people should abstain. That is the priority. Abstain, abstain. And for those who are married, stay faithful to each other. And for those who can't contain the two, abstain and being faithful to your partner, use the condom. And condoms have been proven to provide us to about a tune of 95% protection against HIV, against sexually transmitted infections, as well as unintended pregnancy. So that is one strategy. The ABC strategy is still on, and we are still embracing it. The second aspect, we want everyone to know their status. Knowing your status gives you two benefits. One, you're able to protect yourself from acquiring because you know. But also, you're encouraging your partner to also test, so you're able to know the status of the other partner as well. So the other, in case you're positive after you've tested, it also gives you an opportunity to start on your treatment early. And as we are all aware, having HIV is not a death sentence. So long as you're consistently on your treatment, you're able to live a long life like anybody else. You're able to have the lifespan of any other person. So HIV testing services are available, and government continues to provide those services. The other is elimination of mother-to-child transmission. So we are encouraging all mothers who are attending antenatal to be tested for HIV. Once they're tested and they're found to be positive, they're started on treatment. Why do we start them on treatment? The main purpose is to reduce the virus in their body, so that by the time they're giving birth, the viral load is, actually the amount of the virus in their body is low, and they're not able to transmit the virus to their newborn baby. That's one. And then two, still under elimination of mother-to-child transmission, we also realized during the breastfeeding process, the child can actually contract the virus if the mother is not on treatment. And still goes back to the same approach I said. If the mother is not on treatment, the virus levels go up. In case the baby has a sore or the mother's nipple has a crack, she can easily infect the baby. So that is another approach. Then the ministry is also focused on what we call safe male circumcision. It has also been proven to provide us with protection against HIV. So, and then we also have a specific program which is targeting people most at risk at acquiring or at being exposed to HIV infection. So we have a full program which looks at that as well. So we have different programs which are targeting truck drivers. We also have we have the sex workers. So those different programs are being put in place. And then specifically for the young people, we have what we call adolescent girls and young women, and then we have adolescent boys and young men. Those programs are also put in place. For those specific programs, we are just not looking at HIV prevention, but we're also looking at the social aspects that affect or drive these young people towards acquiring HIV. Could be economic issues around that. So we are doing economic empowerment through that program as well, for both young girls and young boys. And those are some of the interventions that the ministry has put in place.
Okay, thank you so much, Boniface. But before I come back to Madam Martha here, probably you would like to know the current situation, especially the current situation of HIV/AIDS transmission among young people in Kampala, but also in other urban areas and around the country generally, for youth, both in schools and out of school. Because before coming to the show, just we were discussing something, and I was told that some condoms actually are distributed in schools, and this to me shows how serious this issue is of HIV/AIDS, and especially school-going kids getting involved in early sex. So probably you could paint a picture of what the situation is as far as the situation of HIV transmissions, especially in school-going children and those who are not going to school is concerned.
Yeah. Thank you. In terms of new infections, maybe just to take us a little back, I think as a country have come from far. The first case of HIV was detected in 1982 in Rakai district, and in the early 90s our prevalence of HIV, if you just went to a community, was about 30%, and that was really high. So the government was able to put different measures in place, including what I've talked about, the ABC strategy. Some of us who were mature by then, you'd hear drums being drummed here and there. So those are some of the strategies. So from 1990 up to now, we are really seeing a decline in new infections. Apparently, from the latest report we have from Uganda AIDS Commission, the prevalence now among the adult population is about 5.1. Of course, we're looking at moving towards epidemic control, where we want that even to reduce further. Going back to the new infections, if you looked at the year 2013, 2014, that is 2013, 2022, 2023, we had about 52,000 new infections. But when you look
at... That is
in
the whole country?
In the whole country, 52,000 new infections. When you look at 2023, 2024, we registered about 38,000. So we realized there is a bit of a decline of new infections. But that noted, when you look at the young people, the category that we are discussing today, that's about 14, 15 to 30. We notice a different trend there. We realize out of the total number, about 36% fall in that age category, which is abnormally high. So the infections are falling down, right? But we also notice out of the new infections, the young people tend to carry the brunt of it. So that's why we are saying, let's reach out to the young people. Because that translates to about, if you break that mathematics down, it gives you about 37 young people getting infected every day with HIV. So the problem is there, and of course the burden is more in the urban settings. When you look at within Kampala, go to Mbarara City, Gulu, the problem is still big, and the young people are highly affected.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me come to Mbabazi here. Now, he's talked about what the ministry has put in place as far as strategies are concerned, to curb the spread of HIV/AIDS. But now, I would like to know from you, what do you think may be the main drivers of this problem?
Thank you so much. HIV prevalence amongst young people is driven by a number of factors. One, the exposure to technology that has made them see material that is so infectious and they would want to learn and try out some of this information, is one thing that has exposed young people to HIV prevention, HIV infection. But also peer pressure is another factor. Learning and coping from what your friends are doing is one other issue that has exposed young people to HIV infection. The other thing is the young people themselves not, taking on their role as young people to determine the reduction in new infections amongst them by speaking out on issues that affect them and kind of coming together as a solid voice and bringing issues to policymakers, for example, to address issues that affect them, issues that predispose them to HIV infection. But also lack of space, not being given that space or not being listened to by the authorities right from family level. If the young people are not listened to and given space to speak out on issues they feel affect them, then they will decide to take their direction and do things that are likely to harm them. So for us as a program, we have young people's programs. We have, like Boniface mentioned, we have a program basically looking at the adolescent and young women, and then the adolescent and young men. And those programs are in specific locations in the country. The Young Women's Program, which we call the Girls Act, is a primary prevention program, just like the Young People's Program, which looks at both boys and girls, but again, bringing both the positive and negative young people together to learn from each other. Both programs are primary prevention programs, and the intention is to create awareness amongst young people, but having the young people at the lead. So the young people are mobilizing their peers in community at facility level, giving them critical information that can help them avoid predisposure to HIV infection. But also what is important about bringing both the negative and positive young people is building that synergy of support between the positive and the negative. The positive will have a testimony to share, which will directly impact on the behavior and change behavior in the negative negative young person. But also, the negative young person here is viewed as a support system to the positive young person, and therefore encouraging this young person to adhere to their treatment and avoid exposing their loved ones to HIV infection. The other aspect of our program is ensuring that we support education. Most of our young people fall out of education, the formal education system early in life, maybe because the parents have failed to, afford school fees, and so they find themselves at home and probably idle. And lack of education means that you are less informed and you're much likely to be exposed to behaviors that can expose you to HIV infection. So that way, when we promote education, we promote the formal education, but also the vocational skilling. And in formal education, we intend to prolong a girl's stay in school, because when you prolong a girl's stay in school, by the time they're out of school, they are mature enough to make informed decisions. They have information, they have knowledge about what behaviors can predispose them, but they're also able to make informed choices in terms of what sexual behavior is best for them and how can it protect them. When we also support vocational education as a way of skilling young women and adolescent girls, because we know poverty is one major driving factor in HIV infections, especially among young women. Because a young woman, once they lack certain basics, for example, pads for their menstruation period, they will meet a person who will lure them to sex just for maybe 1,000 shillings that can enable them buy a pad or a panty. And that has exposed so many girls to HIV infections. And so what our program does is to ensure that we skill them to make their own pads. Those are reusable pads, but we also offer pads and other menstrual products like period panties. A period panty will enable this girl consistently attend school and be able to achieve their dreams. And so that they are able to make decisions that benefit them more than when they are actually lured to activities that do not benefit them. But we also ensure that we build agency in these young people. When we skill them, we support them to be able to speak out on issues that affect them. We have brought young women before parliamentarians to a platform that they are able to speak out and determine policy or legislation on certain issues that affect them. For example, we have they have spoken about the menstrual products, the taxes that are levied on menstrual products, and we were happy when government, put a waiver on taxing menstrual products. Although the challenge that they are still grappling with is to see how can the waiver be implemented, because much as we have a waiver, we still see pads costed very highly in supermarkets, in shops. So until they achieve that, they will never keep quiet. So we look at a girl at school, but also out of school, for purposes of empowering them to get information. And in school, we are also doing sexuality education in line with government program.
Okay.
And this is intended because cognizant of the fact that children are getting exposed to sexuality information early in life. So it is very critical that we begin getting information to children while they are at certain levels of education. And so it would become prudent for us to have age-appropriate information, and that is something that we are doing very, very critically to ensure that children get informed, children get empowered to take and make informed decisions. And all this we do by encouraging the young people to be at the forefront. When we have them at the forefront, our role is only to guide them. And I think it's working. It's working, and it is helping young people to change their behavior.
Thank you.
It remains an uphill task, but we hope that we can be able to achieve.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Mbawaziria. But let me go back to Boniface. Boniface, when we look at the young boys and the young girls, especially these who are, going to school, and their social systems, the parents, the teachers while they are at school, but also when we go to the community, we've got, community leaders, we've got religious leaders there. Do you think these, social, the tags, the social systems that are in place, do you, in your view, think they are doing enough to see that young girls and boys do not, get involved in early sex? Do you think they are doing enough?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think our social structures are being built in a way that talking about sex is more of like a taboo. But we're also realizing that in order for us to combat the HIV epidemic, we need to utilize a multi-sectoral approach, as well as making sure we have an integrated approach, bringing everyone on board. So we are, as a ministry, one of the strategies that we are using is to reach out to the different social actors. We have the cultural leaders, we have the religious leaders, we have the politicians, we have the teachers. So all these people should come together and support this young child or this young girl at school, maybe when she's at the community, at a community gathering. This community leader, this cultural leader should be able to give age-appropriate information regarding HIV prevention. So as a ministry, we have been able to reach out to different cultural institutions, including the Buganda Kingdom, including the Toro Kingdom, among others. And we have equipped them and provided them with messages, talking points, including religious leaders. We've just concluded an activity where we met religious leaders across the country. We give them these talking points which they use during their sermons, their pastoral letters, to be able to talk about HIV and the benefits of the available prevention commodities. So we have been able to do that, but it's a collective responsibility. So teachers at school, it's also our role to be able to mentor these children. Most times the children or the young people, they learn from peers. Whether it's correct or wrong, most times that is what they have. So if they picked up something which is not correct, it's most likely going to affect their decision-making ability. So as parents, as community, let's open up. It's an opportunity for us to open up and reach out to these young people. And they should know that there is someone who can have our back, probably at school, probably at home. I can talk to my father, I can talk to my mom openly about sex issues, and they can able to give me the right information. I think that is the approach that we all need to use, and I'm glad that ministry have already started to do that.
Thank you so much, Boniface and Viewer. We are going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be looking at one of the things that you've actually ended with there, and it's about condom use. Gone are the days when it was taboo to talk about, a condom, especially at home. So when we come back from that break, we'll be looking at condom use and how is it helping this age bracket of 14 to 30 to ensure that they don't contract HIV/AIDS.
Buza Commissioner, enhancing tax education and bringing it closer to the taxpayers. Many Ugandans have questions about the taxes they pay to URA.
When we come at revenue, they tell us to clear chitenge at 10,000. And when we are selling chitenge, we sell it at 17. So we don't know whether we are working or not.
Understanding your tax obligations can help you grow your business and avoid unnecessary losses. Now, you can get direct answers. Send your tax-related questions via WhatsApp or SMS to 0790-141-887, and the Commissioner General of URA, John Musinguzi, will personally address them. Tune in to UBC News Tonight every Monday and Wednesday for expert insights and clear explanations. Buza Commissioner.
Mikulu Business Expo kumipira bili mwetano. Ine komyewo. Wakati wena zomezi mwenda paka kumila rumumei. Lugugu Uma Showgrounds. Event service providers na business endala zona. Mwandu wademwa yuna Mikulu Business Expo kumipira bili mwetano. Imidala jini kumitwalo nkaga. Hino bronze. Mitwalo chinana. Kusilver. Ate gold. Yaka kade karamba. Kogata platinum. Yaka muchitundu. Okuyingira Mikulu Business Expo kumipira bili mwetano. Kwa kumitano zoka. Kati wasasula omudala oba osasulidde ekifo tenti emmeeza entebe bbiri kwogata amasannyalaze ne security okumanya ebisingawo ku 0770 mukaga 20 292 oba 0776 mukaga 20 292 biteeddwa mu ssente Photogenics Limited, Lean Events, Crane Performers, Chabasa Pharma, BBS Telefina, UBC, Rosie Roots, City Bridals, Joyce Sonko Textiles, Channel Ladies Choice, Njuvu Estates, Junico Rio Deco, Victory Travel Center, Tender Gardens, Eco Farm Pharmacy, Mikolo Magazine, ne Pepsi.
Looking for instant excitement? The Uganda National Lottery Spin for Cash game is now available online. Wherever you are, you can join the excitement for just 500, 1,000 and 2,000 Uganda shillings. Don't miss out. Register now on www.nationallottery.go.ug for a chance to win your share of 2 billion instantly. What are you waiting for? Play Spin for Cash now, anytime, anywhere. Ituba is the proud operator of the Uganda National Lottery.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
Welcome back from that break, and this is UBC TV, and we are here in the studio, and we're looking at raising HIV transmission and infections among young people in the age bracket of 14 to 30, and of course looking at the power of young people and their social systems to address the problem. And in the studio I'm with Ms. Mbabazi Martha Atai, who is the Prevention Program and Advocacy Coordinator at AHF Uganda Cares, and also I have in the studio Mr. Boniface Epoku, who is the Program Officer Condom Programming at the Ministry of Health. And before we went for that break, we were looking at, we've talked about so many things, and we ended up with the social systems in place. But let's look at condom use. Today, and it's been going on for some time, not only here in Uganda, but all over the world. The promotion of the use of condom, especially for young men and young women, but also the marrieds. You talked about people who may be having HIV/AIDS, but they want to protect their loved ones, and they have to use condoms. But it's not only about preventing people from contracting HIV/AIDS, but also unwanted pregnancies, especially the sexually active young men and women. And the question to you, Mr. Epoku, as a ministry, what are you doing to ensure that the general public, especially the young men and women, really embrace the use of condoms? Of course, there are those who cannot control themselves, and those are the ones that we are talking about, and essentially university students. And I know some of you may be watching us right now. This goes to you, and we need to hear from Mr. Epoku what the ministry is doing to ensure that this target age group adheres to the use of condom.
Okay, thank you for that question. Maybe to take us a little back in terms of condom use among young people. It's agreed that the target should be about 90%. But when you look at, that's the guidance that we get from UNAIDS and WHO, at least 90% condom use. That gives us proper, I would say, a good coverage. But when you look at our context in Uganda, condom use among young people within the category that we are talking about, that is 14, 15 to 30, runs about 44%. So that puts us at a very bad state. We are not even halfway of the target that we should be. So as a country, as a program, and as a ministry, we are continuing to make sure that condoms are available. We've just had a procurement. Annually, we procure close to 200 million condoms. And we distribute these condoms to the community hotspot. When we talk about a community hotspot, we are looking at that specific area where we think the concentration of sexual activity is high, or the risk of being exposed to sexual activity is high. So we have been able to map out across the country. We have about 17,200 hotspots that have been mapped. And these hotspots, we routinely supply them with condoms. I'm very sure you could have gone to a washroom somewhere, maybe in a hotel, you find there is a small box there with condoms. So that is one of the interventions that ministry is doing. In addition to that, we are also coming up with campaigns. As I said earlier, even discussions like this are part of those campaigns to make sure that we create more awareness. We seem to have gone back looking at the rate at which the epidemic is coming down. We are saying, I think we should relax now, but I think it's the time now we need to think out of the box and make sure that we bring in more communication. And going forward, we have a campaign that we have put across. We call it Get It On, Stay Safe, with the slogan, no condom, no game. So every young person at university, whenever you feel like you're tempted, please, no condom, no game. So that should be our slogan going forward. And the distribution is happening. We have last mile distributors who pick these condoms from designated spots within the district and take them to community hotspots. But also we are working with a team of young people, we call them YAPs, who are attached to facilities. They go to the facility, pick these condoms, go to the community where their peers are, and they give them the condoms, but also accompany with information on how to use the condom correctly and consistently. So we also have the VHTs, which has been our first line health center. So they are routinely supply given condoms as well. They pick from the health facility and they're able to give. And then we're also utilizing what we call the peer-to-peer approach. Maybe a colleague like you, we are peers, so I can easily come and share with you my secrets. If I need a condom, I may not need to go and ask from a VHT. Some of the VHTs over the years have grown old. So this young man going to that VHT is like going to ask for a condom from your father. So we are saying, let's work with the young people. They are very colleagues to be able to do distribution. And we have been able to train quite a number across the country.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you can add there something, yes.
Programming. Yes, together with MOH, or Ministry of Health, we actually do the last mile distribution of condoms. But as a program, like I mentioned earlier, we do complement government efforts. And on an annual basis, we do procure about 6 million condoms as a program. And our condoms are beautifully branded, and the attractiveness of a product determines the utilization of a product. And so we have seen our brands. We have two brands, the Love Condom and the Icon Gold Condom. They are very much demanded for, and my brother here will attest to that, that even his own peers at the ministry will always call for an Icon Gold Condom. And surely having young people taking lead in distributing condoms to their peers helps a lot to avoid prejudices, especially from health workers, from parents. And I think parents need to appreciate the era that we are in and support their children through interactions and telling them what is good to do and what is not good to do, and also re-emphasizing the importance of the condom, especially when you find your child holding a condom. It's not the best to rebuke, but rather develop a conversation around it. Even health workers, when you see young people picking condoms from dispensers, it is not right to rebuke them, but speak to them and offer them more information about condom use. Because we know a condom is a triple prevention tool, which will help us avoid HIV infection, but also other STIs and pregnancy. We have been hearing about the huge numbers of young women getting pregnant. Teenage pregnancies are on a rise. And a pregnancy means that there was unprotected sex. And unprotected sex is definitely a precursor to HIV infections. So there is a lot that we need to do as parents, as community, And like my brother here mentioned, the involvement of every stakeholder in this response is very critical. Recently, after noticing the high numbers of young people, especially from universities, from tertiary institutions, who flock the Pentecostal churches, we decided to hold dialogue meetings with them. And for them, they have been feeling they were left out. They were left behind in this response. And we said, no, it's time that you now come on board. You are attracting very huge numbers of young people into your crusades, and yet, you know, some may not come because they are actually listening to the gospel. After the crusade, they are branching to different corners. And so once you give a message as a religious leader, and because they listen to you, they believe in you, I bet there's a lot that can change in the behaviors of young people.
Thank you so much. And I think that brings me to what I wanted to talk about, and this is about mindset change. Probably that is something that especially the community leaders and even parents themselves, to talk to the children, this age group of 16 to 30, about mindset change, especially when it comes to early sex. To talk to them and show them that, hey, please, your future matters a lot, and there's so much that you can afford in future if you do not engage in early sex. Do you think mindset change is something that the ministry and also AHT could actually try to bring on board in just about 5 minutes?
Yeah, that is very true. Mindset change, and to us, we believe it starts with an individual being able to know what are the risks around you. Before you move out as a person, you need to do what we call self-assessment and risk assessment, knowing if I go into maybe so-and-so's house, what are the risks there? Do I know their HIV status? So that should be able to start trigger your mind to think, maybe I need to take an HIV test, maybe I need to look for a condom if I don't know this partner that I'm going with. I think mindset change is really very key. And then what you've said, let parents be able to start these conversations. Let's start these conversations early. Because if we don't discuss with our children, with our young people about sex, somebody may come in and put in wrong information there, and they most likely going to run with that information. And most times the repercussions have not been very good. So mindset change, even with the programs that we have, that's why before even we distribute, say, a condom, before we do testing, there's always a counseling session that happens. So we think these are all opportunities for mindset change.
Anything to add there, mindset change?
Sure, yeah. It's very critical. Mindset change is very, very relevant in ensuring that we change the trajectory regarding HIV transmission or prevalence in our country. Now, when you look at predisposing factors, especially amongst young people, these days they talk about house parties. Have you heard about house parties?
Sleepovers.
Yeah. Sleepovers, and those are the avenues or platforms where HIV actually gets transmitted. When they get to a house party, they begin having sex, and indiscriminately.
There's also the use of drugs.
Yes, and because of drugs, they get so hyped up and they will not think about any precautionary measures. So again, parents, as children seek to sleep over, to go for a house party, it is critical that you speak to them and challenge them on the behaviors that happen in such kind of places. Taking of drugs have become an alternative that young people are taking up as a way of forgetting about the idleness that they are having to put up with. You find in trading centers, because the parents, first of all, are the first to go to trading centers, drink and forget that they have children, And so children get to master the routines of the parents, and they know that daddy or mommy will return at hour X. So we can also utilize this time while they are there to also go to another, another corner and engage in exactly the same behaviors that the parents are having to do. Because these days you find mothers and fathers competing. I call it competing because both of them will go to a trading center, take alcohol competitively, and return home staggering, not knowing what is happening at home. And so this is what is affecting our children. The parents need to take their responsibility, talk to children, behave responsibly, so that the children can learn from us.
And I think, Martha, I'm sorry to cut you short, but that is part of your parting shot, because I need your parting shot now, because time is not our best ally. I'll begin with you in just 1.5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I think as part of my concluding remark, we also need to look at the sexual networks. So we realize this girl is at school, he has a boyfriend. When she goes back to her village, there's another boy there waiting for her. So in the process, if one of them is infected, there most likely a high chance that he or she can transmit within that. So that is also another issue. That's why we are emphasizing abstinence for the young people. And being faithful, we are really saying for those who are married. And then we are saying, in case all that fails, let's use a condom. We have the 95% cascade, which has been introduced by UNAIDS, that we are saying 95% of the population should be able to test and know their status. And out of that, 95 should be able to be started on treatment and should be able to achieve, 95 should be able to achieve viral load suppression. So I call upon all of us, including the young people, let's embrace testing. Let's use condoms. There are quite a number of other areas that we have as ministry. We have PrEP. Those are new technologies for prevention. Let's go for male circumcision, among others.
Okay.
As I conclude, I say, no condom, no game.
No game. Thank you
Stay
so much.
safe.
Thank you, Ben. In just a minute.
Hey, I didn't mention our campaign. Just get it on.
All
just
right.
use it. We are saying just use the condom. There is no question about it. Thank you very much. My parting shots, on top of the prevention strategies that Bonnie has highlighted, we need to be able to disclose our statuses to our loved ones so that we get support. And that is very critical. If you don't disclose, then we are not going to be helped. And then we need to, as young people, be listened to. I would like to call upon all stakeholders to prioritize speaking to young people, listening to what they have to say, and then guide them. Otherwise, without that, we will never be able to support the young person and reduce HIV infections amongst young people.
Thank you so much. And viewer, we've come to the end of this very, very important topic. We've been looking at addressing raising HIV transmission and infections among young people, the age bracket of 14 to 30, and of course looking at the power of young people and their social system to address the problem. And in the studio, I've been with none other than Mbabazi Martha Atai, who is the Prevention Program and Advocacy Coordinator at AHF Uganda Cares. And also I had with me in the studio Mr. Boniface Poku, who is the Program Officer, Condom Programming and Ministry of Health. Thank you so much for having been part of this show, and we do hope that the young people, the young men and women who have been watching this show, you've learned a lot in as far as preventing yourselves from contracting HIV/AIDS is concerned. But up next year on UBC TV, it is News Tonight with Rhoda Ngonzi. Stay tuned and good night from us.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.